This is Mark Levin speaking at the Christians United for Israel Summit just recently. I think this was just either tonight or last night. And he was at the podium, Mark Levin was, and this is what he had to say when it came to the Woke Reich, he refers to it as. And that, of course, is now the emerging new Republican Party that we're seeing break out, especially amongst the youth, who aren't afraid to call out Zionism, foreign influence in our government from world Jewry, the Jews, Israel, etc. This is what he has to say about this now as he took the stand and had this to say. Take a listen to it. And we're going to go over it.
I want to just say this about the so-called Woke Reich, which I call the Woke Reich, R-E-I-C-H. Any person who wants to serve in high office, who doesn't denounce the Woke Reich, all of it, will not get my vote, will not get your vote, will not get the Jewish vote, will not get the evangelical vote, will not get the vote of patriotic Americans.
I just wanted to play that just to start all of this off to remind you all. That's Mark Levin at the CUFI Summit, the what is it, Christians United for Israel. I just wanted to play that and go over that real quick before we get into the Iran war update, because it's a stark reminder of multiple different things. First of all, Mark Levin, a Jewish Republican, washed-up political commentator. He was really, he was a never was. He wasn't even a has-been. I know a lot of people were fans of his show in the 90s, including my own mom, who confessed to listening to him way back in the day. I don't remember listening to him. I remember listening to Rush Limbaugh in the car as a kid. Never Mark Levin. Maybe because he was on late. I don't know. But it's a reminder of multiple things. First of all, Mark Levin takes the stage and he says he's using Woke Reich now. And this is no offense to Howard Clegg and our cool boomers in chat, but this is boomer humor, right? The Democrats, as Trump calls them. The Democrat. I call them demon rats. They're not Democrats, they're demon rats. It's always the play on words. So now it's the woke right, first of all, is what we're being called. Anybody who's a conservative now, who dares speak any criticism on Israel or dares to point out any of the increasingly obvious foreign influence in our politics, like Thomas Massie losing after Miriam Adelson, the Israeli nationalist whore, donates $20 million or something to that effect to basically replace him with an old senile boomer in the form of Ed Galrain, who literally campaigned on drafting boomers' children to war for Israel. Stuff like that, just the obvious stuff. That's all that it really is. It's nothing crazy. How dare you point that out? How dare you point out the fact that the same Israel nationalist whore, Miriam Adelson, donated $240 million to Trump's campaigns, which has essentially purchased this war now on Israel's behalf in Iran that has gone so wonderfully. What a great idea this Iran war was. Israel is now way safer. In America, we are just prospering over here because of that war. I mean, it's the best decision Trump's made by far. Obviously, that's sarcasm. I'm aware the internet's full of people who can't they can't grasp that. That's sarcasm. And it's basically, again, don't you dare point this out, despite the fact that our own Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, our own Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, our own Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, and Trump himself at one point literally said at the beginning of this that we did it because of Israel and for them. But if you point it out as a conservative voter, regular American citizen, if you point out any of this, you're now a member of the woke right, he says. And where's that term woke come from? Well, that's the term that we had used in response to all of the liberal terminology that was being used against us. You know how they've called us in the past Nazis and fascists. Well, they're just woke idiots. They believe you can chop your penis off and the next day you're a woman. May as well start wearing women's clothes. Good job. Wow, you really recognize the fact that clearly God made a mistake at birth with you. You were supposed to be a woman all along. Why don't you just chop your penis off and start wearing women's clothes, and now you're a woman? Problem solved. That's called wokeness. It's obviously stupidity. It's a disease. And that's what the conservative right has always identified. What we see out of people like Mark Levin, this absolute pathetic, never was Jew who's at a Christians United for Israel summit. We see him stealing the terminology that the Republicans have accurately used against liberals to now turn it against us. And this is causing a divide. It is the cause of the divide in the Republican Party. That now Laura Loomer goes on X and says the woke right is causing a massive divide and it's going to cause us to lose the midterms. No. The woke right, essentially the conservatives who are identifying Israel as a massive problem for our country's future, is the naturally occurring evolution of the Republican side of the aisle. And that's naturally occurring because it's the youth now taking the place of all of the boomers who are dying off finally that at one point worshipped Israel. So anybody in politics, when you're looking at a voter demographic, the youth is considered the under 40 vote, and in some cases the under 45 vote, because you take any of those ages and double it, and realistically those people will be then therefore alive for another half or more of a lifetime, another double of their lifetime essentially. And when you look at the under 45, let's just say, vote, you recognize that the under 45 demographic hates Israel now by a lot. And every 10 years younger you go, the more that hate is evident. So 40-year-olds, they despise Israel by a majority. Then you have people who are in their 30s, and they despise Israel even more, right? Millennials, we'll call them. The millennial category only supports Israel at a rate of 24 to 26% currently. You go to Gen Z, who are under 30 still, and that support drops even more to just 16%. And when you look at men, young men, who are looking around and recognizing all of the massive issues plaguing our nation right now, we understand, like how I called out the woke left, we understand, obviously, we have massive social issues with this liberal disease plaguing our nation. It's all madness. And so men are, or at least do, want to become conservative, but they look at this party that has been infested with Jewish psyop bullshit, Jewish influence, courtesy of all of their big money, all of the big donor money plaguing us, the psyop that is Neo-Conservatism, which leaves a bad taste in all of our mouths. And so there is a natural shift occurring in the party. And if left to its own, left to evolve as it should, then the Republican Party will simply, by the way, this is inevitable. Like, there is no fighting this. Mark Levin can get up on his stupid little podium that says CUFI. Literally, it says CUFI, C-U-F-I, CUFI. Christians United for Israel, CUFI. Great fucking name. I'm sure everybody there needed their canes and wheelchairs to exit afterwards. But he's at CUFI, and he's saying, I'm not going to vote. I'm just not going to vote for anybody who supports that. Any candidate that supports that. Well, any candidate that's now running as a Republican that is speaking like I am to all of you, cattle, pigs, swine, or otherwise in chat, any candidate that says this is going to win and clearly understands the direction in which our nation is heading. So that's first and foremost. But that's the problem. And so really the divide isn't coming from us. We're the future. We aren't the divide. We're just the future. The divide is happening as a result of the old generations, like in the fourth turning, desperately holding on to the establishment that they both built and want to maintain, refusing to let it go at any cost, and fighting for it. And Mark Levin is the prime example of that. Then he uses the terms that are dividing us. Woke Reich. We already had to deal with being called Nazis from all of the leftists, which, by the way, it's not. It's obviously the furthest thing from the truth. If Trump were a Nazi, things would actually be getting done, right? And obviously nothing's getting done, so he's not a Nazi. He's not the powerful executive we want him to be. Like, many of us, believe me, we wish it were true. It's just not. But that's what they called us. We had to deal with that from them, and they're the opposition, so they're going to do that. You expect it. But Mark Levin gets to now claim and be a Republican, but still use Nazi terminology from within, which causes a divide. That's what's literally happening here. I also wanted to point this out too. Not only is the divide coming from within the party like this, but in addition to that, we can learn valuable lessons here. And what I want to point out, first of all, is the sad reality of all of this. He says again, I won't vote for any candidate seeking high office that has woke Reich rhetoric and narratives. Well, here's the deal. You won't vote, and then he says, and the Jews won't vote either, and neither will the evangelicals. Well, let's break down all of those. Mark Levin won't vote for anybody. Well, I believe in 2026, Mark Levin now speaking out against a Republican candidate adds credibility to any future campaign. So that's a stamp of approval for all of the future voters of America, all of the youth, basically. Anybody that matters, anybody that's not PSYOP. So first of all, that means nothing. In fact, it actually means the opposite of how he intends. Contrary to what he would have you believe, he is not the voice of America. And the flag pin that he wears now on his show, that's gotten huge, rivaling Ben Shapiro's tiny hat in size, doesn't also mean that he's now the voice of America either. It's this shiny, ridiculous American flag. So that's first of all. Second, he says, the Jews won't vote for anybody here in America that runs as a Republican, but still has woke Reich narrative and rhetoric. The Jews, they won't have the Jewish vote. Well, let's be real about that. The Jews are what? They are 2% of the total population of America. So that's really not a flex either. We don't really give a shit. Let's just call a spade there. The Jews are 2% of the population here in America. And in addition to that, as I've gone over multiple times here on this channel, not only are they only 2% of the population, but how many of them, what percentage of them voted for Kamala Harris in 2024? Oh, as it turns out, anywhere between 70 to 80% of them. So not only are they a small percentage of the population to begin with, but they're overwhelmingly Democrat. And even though there was a slight shift to Trump in 2024, it was only after they witnessed the Democrat Party's response to the October attacks in 2023 that they realized that they needed to hook back up with their old pals, the neocons, in order to carry out the agenda and plan for the Middle East that they have, which is, of course, Greater Israel, etc. They knew that the Democrat support had already waned. They'd already lost a large part of it. So now they pretend to be more conservative than what they are. Mark Levin was a never-Trumper. Ben Shapiro was a never-Trumper. Now here on this channel, I criticize Trump all day. I despise Trump and everything that he's done. But I liked Trump when he was cool. Back when Trump was cool, Mark Levin hated Trump. Ben Shapiro hated Trump. And now he's on the CUFI stage talking about, oh, the woke Reich. Oh, we won't vote. We won't vote. We won't vote Republican. We won't vote Republican. And if they have woke Reich narrative, meaning, hey, maybe we shouldn't send any more foreign aid or money to Israel, especially when they get us involved in stupid fucking foreign wars that cost us blood and treasure, reward us with nothing, benefit us in no way whatsoever, and end in catastrophe. Maybe we should just cut them off since they're so eager for chaos and violence and death. Not a great ally. What the fuck do they give us anyway? That's what he means by woke Reich, by the way. Perfectly reasonable questions, perfectly reasonable stance. They're a foreign government. They're not a colony. They're not a territory. They're not a state. They're just a foreign country. They're not part of NATO. They're nothing. But that's the woke Reich now. I also want to address the evangelicals real quick. What a meaningless denomination. What an irrelevant denomination in America. I, myself, am a Reformed Protestant Presbyterian. You want true Protestantism and Christianity? That's what this is. Evangelical bullshit is literally bullshit. Scubalon, as Paul would have called it in the Bible. It is shit. It is watered down psyop shit. And collectively, evangelicalism and dispensationalism combined with neoconservatism is why America is shit. They didn't conserve anything. They didn't protect morality. They're not the salt of the world or the light of the world like God commands them to be, because they can't be, because they believe Jews are God's chosen people and we need to focus on blessing Israel. And we've been doing that for decades under these idiots. Where are the blessings? My roads suck. My cost of living's terrible. Can't afford a home. The economy is shit. Everything sucks. When are those blessings coming? They never have an answer for that. So he says the evangelicals won't vote for anybody with this rhetoric. Who cares? The evangelicals are finished. They're done. They are useless, and that form of worship and church can't die off fast enough in America. Time to get back to real Protestantism. The Protestantism that was founded with Martin Luther, who literally had this to say about the Jews in his book on the Jews and their lies. He literally said, "We are at fault in not slaying them. Rather, we allow them to live freely in our midst, despite all of their murdering, cursing, blaspheming, lying, and defaming. We protect their synagogues, houses, life, and property. In this way, we make them lazy and secure and encourage them to fleece us boldly of our money and goods, as well as to mock and deride us with a view of finally overcoming us, killing us all for such a great sin, and robbing us of all of our property as they daily pray and hope. Now tell me whether they do not have every reason to be the enemies of us, accursed Goyim, to curse us and to strive for our fatal, complete, and total ruin." That's Martin Luther's quote from his book in 1543 on the Jews and their lies, the founder of Protestantism. That's what our church needs to get back to, not evangelical nonsense, okay? So evangelicals won't vote? Fine, let them. They're basically liberals anyway. They are the liberals of Christianity. So I wanted to go over that. Finally, what I wanted to go over is what we can learn, what we can literally learn from Mark Levin's strategy here. What is he saying? What is he doing in this kind of a speech at CUFI, Christians United for Israel? My God. Well, Mark Levin in this speech is literally weaponizing his vote, which is what I keep telling everyone on this channel to do. Weaponize your vote. Do not toe the party line. If they're going to weaponize their vote and it works, and it results in 2% of the population being able to apparently determine the path and direction our politics takes, then what would the majority of us do? What kind of result would we get if we learned to play the game the way they do? What result would we then get? When was the last time a Republican ran, besides James Fishback in Florida? When was the last time a Republican ran and he said, hey, you know what my biggest concern is? My biggest concern is the American white man. When was the last time you heard that rhetoric coming from a Republican politician? Nowadays, they want to talk about the African Americans, and that's fine. You know, on this channel, I genuinely believe that African Americans, blacks, there are no hyphenated Americans, right? That's a Teddy Roosevelt thing. There are just Americans, and we must ascend to the American race. So they are just Americans. They are black Americans, we can call them. They have a heritage stake to claim in this country. I say that all the time. That's what slavery earned them. The slavery was evil, and the silver lining of it is that the generations that have come after those ancestors that were enslaved here have earned a heritage claim here in this nation. I believe that. I actually believe that now at this point there are fourth and fifth generation Hispanics that probably do have a right to heritage claim in this nation as well. And so that's my stance on that. But when was the last time a Republican politician said, hey, you know, I want to run to help out the white man? James Fishback's doing it in Florida. Subsequently, he gets no Fox News airtime. He gets no newspaper spots. He gets no nationwide media attention. And they blackball him from debating Byron Donalds. What would happen as a result of, I don't know, say, most conservative white men, which is most white men, coming out together, unified, on social media, all over, which is monitored by the White House. Trump may not be on Twitter, but make no mistake about it. Collectively, they'll see hashtags. They want to know. They at least want to feel for it. What would happen if collectively the majority of white men, which are mostly conservative men, said, hey, any politician that doesn't put America first, any politician we even suspect will want to continue sending foreign aid to Israel and serving Zionist pigs, and any politician we even suspect will get us involved in more foreign wars in the Middle East, and will continue to rear our American head all overseas, draining us of blood and treasure, we won't vote for them at all. Any politician that doesn't embrace the Monroe Doctrine and focus on our Western Hemisphere for foreign policy, any politician that doesn't basically immediately cover the housing market issue and the cost of living and affordability and deal with immigration, any politician we suspect that won't carry out and follow through on mass deportations won't get our vote at all. What would happen if that happened? We need to weaponize our vote because truthfully, our vote is taken for granted. I've said this time and again on this channel for months. That's why they don't bring us up. The white man? Pfft, a Republican doesn't need to talk about you if you're a white man. You will get on your knees like the cuck that you are, you pathetic white European bitch, and you will vote for the Republican no matter what, because at least it's not a Democrat. But if we stop towing the party line, like the second these Jews do, the second they think Trump isn't going to finish this Iran war for them the way that they like, or the second they think the Republican Party is shifting just a little bit too anti-Zionist for their liking, and all of a sudden it's I won't vote for anybody talking like that, and they're 2% of the population, and they're overrepresented in politics and power and in business, so they get their way. The second they do that, they get their way. We need to learn from them, and we need to start stealing those strategies. We don't owe any politician our votes. We don't need to toe the party line. I am perfectly content as a reactionary, which is what I am. I'm not even, I hate to say this because it's almost cringe with how frequently the chuds say it now. There's nothing left to conserve. There really isn't. So I'm a reactionary, and I'm perfectly content, though I don't want to in my core be an accelerationist. I am perfectly content to withhold my vote, or maybe even spitefully vote Democrat for that matter, depending on what kind of Republicans are running in my area. I'm perfectly content to let this nation fall away even more, because it's only through sheer intolerance that true change actually occurs. And if people aren't willing to wake up and vote for the change and actually realize what politicians we need and make smart decisions at the voting booths, then let the Democrats win. Let them plunge our country even further down. The suffering may need to get a lot worse yet. And I'm perfectly on board with that. I really am.